Normally this thing would work right off the bat, right? As opposed to having to constantly refresh it. Wouldn't that be great? So let's get rid of that one. And that one. There we go. Why, Obs? Why? Well, it's not the Elima League either, so I should change that on both overlays real quick. There we go. So, a bit awkward of a start today. Players take their sweet time getting here. And as such, I'm not sure which matches are going to be ready. Right now I see aLive, Zanster, Bly, and Keen on. And Zanster, aLive might be trying to play their game just right off the bat since they are tied for that ace spot. I don't know. But yeah, it's a little bit awkward. It is the Corsair Cup Finals. And it was the top 8 points that were invited, and there's happened to be top 9 because of the tie. So they're playing that out. But we're still have a couple good matches. Sort of is now online. He's going to be waiting for the winner. And Zanster being a really good guy and asking if I want to cast. I mean, I'd rather just jump into casting immediately and just not, you know, worry about if other people show up. So I guess I'll get to making that. Haven't got to cast aLive a lot. Not as much as we used to. It's kind of weird. Elima League just recently made a tweet. Saying... I think he made it. Talking about the top 10 participants of the Elima League, or top 8 actually. Keen was on top, which is not surprising. This guy plays in everything. And he's also here today. He also plays in like all the European Cups, so... we do love throwing him invites when possible to stuff that isn't like point-based or, you know, obviously you didn't qualify for. Like, just invites, then like Keen's a very solid player, and I love seeing him. He doesn't usually win the Cups, though, so it's just, you know, not quite there yet. He is facing a laser today, so yeah, that's going to be pretty tough. I see Hero Marine is also online. I'm pretty excited to cast Hero Marine. I was kind of sad to see that he isn't going to go to Montreal. I guess because he didn't qualify. No one, his team is going to send him. Technically, he's still on Mouse, like the only StarCraft guy still on Mouse, but yeah, okay, whatever. I would have loved to have seen him. I think he's doing really well lately, so I hope we get to see him later on in the tournaments as he'll be facing Bly to start things off. It's going to be a best of 3, and we are going into a TvZ, Korea versus Europe. If you haven't already figured it out, I am solo casting today, as Rifkin has very important tax things to do as an adult. Yay! Alright, it's on Abyssal Reef in the bottom right as the red Zerg. It is Zanster. Somewhat recent pickup of Sidestorm Gaming. And in the top left as the blue Terran, it is aLive. Oh, excuse me. That's also awkward is that I still don't actually have admin privileges. I should actually ask someone about getting admin privileges on Team Liquid. I'm gonna do that before I forget. You know, because I thought about it before and then I was like, nah, and then like I can't attach this to Team Liquid and it's like, okay, made a mistake. Okay, I definitely misspelled privileges, guys. There we go. Maybe some other Team Liquid guy will be kind and go ahead and put that on the sidebar. We'll see what happens. I am just going to pay attention to the amazing StarCraft games in front of us. So, TvZ starting off normally. Talk about, this is the Corsair Cup Finals and the casting today, solo casting, but both Rifkin and I will be busy / away / nothing was planned anyways for these next couple of days. I do believe there is a Colonial War or two happening this weekend with Zeph and Maynard, but that won't be helped cast by either me or Rifkin, so you won't see us for a while after this. I'm going to a funeral, so I'm also not going to be streaming, and then Rifkin is going to go to PAX, so I guess if you're at PAX, try and find him and say hi. And then we're back to the grind on Monday and Tuesday, and then I'm off to Montreal to cast WCS, and then Rifkin's off just to be an attendee. So if you're going to there, also say hi to us. That'd be cool. I finally have some action with the Reaper, but I'm looking more towards how many Lings are coming out right now. You already had sent a laser, Zanster, my bad. I saw A, L, and whatever. Zanster already sent a lot of Lings over here, and I mean, he's like, aLive is lucky he has a Marine. If he didn't have a Marine, this would absolutely be even a cancel. But that single Marine and the SCV pool, of course, is making it complicated, but there are a lot more Lings on the way with speed, and that is going to not quite cancel the command center. Ooh, that's exactly what Zanster would have wanted. Oh man, that's actually... That could have been almost perfect for aLive if he had been able to raise that supply depot. So many SCs are going to go down because there was that awkward point where they were on the supply depot, but then, you know, some were, some weren't, and it was very awkwardly timed. That's unfortunate because if they were all up already and he just had to sacrifice the Marine, then you massacre the wall, you save the command center, and that's actually kind of a failed opener, I would say, from Zanster. But as it is, a Marine, 10 SCVs, dealing with the Reaper, killing a Hellion even? Yeah, killing a Hellion, like that's worth the investment of Lings here. So I haven't seen a build like that in a while. That is the later, more Lings. Like, the initial 2 is done all the time, but a little bit later, and then you get 6 Lings, that almost guarantees the cancel in and of itself, and then you follow up directly with speed and more Lings. That, as I said, like, almost guarantees the cancel. Now, a couple more Lings come in here and just make aLive's day worse by killing the Marine and maybe even get an SCV. The Hellions had gone across the map to do maybe some return damage and failed, so Marcy does go down. I mean, luckily he is going Hellions, because if he had gone for like a 2-1-1, even the handful of Marines Zanster had in the main base maybe would have been enough to snowball, since you're still building the tech lab and the reactor can only do so much on that one barracks. It would have been a lot more tough. A lot tougher. English good. A lot tougher, but at least the Hellions saved aLive's day a little bit. As it is, aLive is still hurting. This is definitely not the opener he was hoping for. It could have been worse, but it could have been way better too. Had he lost that command center, he wouldn't have lost 10 SCVs, probably. But then, you know, the entire command center timing, that's probably worse. I'm also wondering if he's trying to adapt his build to the circumstance, so this is actually what he wanted to do. Either way, 2 more barracks, no starport, no 3rd CC, but 2 engineering bays, which tells me that there should be a 3rd CC on the way eventually. That is a Baneling nest, just ensuring that there aren't any chances and surprises that could actually kill Zanster. Obviously, the Overlord gets in here as well and sees that there were additional barracks added, not an armory, not continued Hellion production, not even a starport to worry about drops or Banshees. So that's a really good scout. And honestly, the Baneling probably could even push off a little bit more, because a Terran player usually isn't going to attack without starport production. Whether that's a medevac, or 2 medevacs for like 16 Marines, or a single medevac for like a Hellbat push. And obviously, he'd already taken out the Hellbat possibility by having that full scout, so you need the Baneling anyways. It's a very small little detail, and his Overlord did get a bit lucky. It's slow, so the fact that it was actually literally right in there and see the entire main base was less likely, of course, than if he had gone for upgraded Overlords. Now I feel like I'm getting sick, which I didn't feel like 2 hours ago. Oh, I hope I'm not. I was already sick. I already had that travel flu. I'm traveling back from Korea, so I would appreciate not getting it again before going to Montreal. That would just be the worst. Alright. So, Hellions still alive. They'll be able to pair up with the eventual medevac attack. That is finally on the way with the 2 medevacs on. There we go. Just popping out. 3rd CC is also put down. Obviously. Want to go in a bit of a macro game, but having had to take so many losses early on, was definitely forced to just kind of make do with what he could. Going to be keeping up on the upgrades, and he does have an upgrade lead over Zanster. Pretty substantial one too, like by 60 seconds. Attacking more of the high duelist end before there's centrifugal hooks, but only with 16 Marines. Yeah, Banelings and Lings will be able to take care of this, even if those Hellions were Hellbats, which they won't quite be. aLive taking a chance here by running onto creep up the ramp, loses all the Hellions. They weren't too helpful, but picks up most of the Marines. You can't really expect too much more as the Terran player with a push like this, so... The only thing you can hope for is that you clear out creep and save the Marines in the process. Well, 2 more medevacs making their way over really, really quickly. 3rd CC's almost done. Usually you see that over here, but maybe you'll put it over to the left. 2 medevacs still alive, although they just lose a couple of Marines. 4 medevacs you definitely need Banelings for. Actually, with 2 you could maybe have dealt with it with pure Ling, but 4 definitely need those Banelings. They have centrifugal hooks now, they have upgrades now, and I think they still have the numbers. Yeah, they do. A little late to saving the 4th base. It's going to take about, what, half damage here? Yeah, but that's not something that aLive can really focus fire on. He still needs those Marines to continue pressuring. Would not have been worth the snipe at all. He does unload on top of a lot of creep, and if he has a scan, which he does, that is a lot of live creep tumors he's taken out. Very annoying for Zanster to replace, but he can replace it. His queens are still alive. It just is about getting over there and doing that. He already replaced all the creeps off to the left side. It's really relentless aggression that makes it questionable, or getting kills on those queens and hoping they don't remake them, which obviously hasn't happened yet. His 3rd base only just now turning into an orbital. He did choose to send it over before an orbital. That's usually the smarter move if you have a delayed base. Just because you're going to be overly saturated anyway, so it's better to transfer the SCVs than it is to get the extra energy for another half a mule. This little Baneling attack is looking quite scary. Usually there'd be a supply depot wall building, or already built, and there's just not right now. Only a handful of Marines rallied forward too. He's going to go for the wall now, but it's too late. Banelings roll in, covered by Lings too, so... yeah, guaranteed kills all over the place. The attack at the front, aLive had to pull back. There wasn't any splash in that. But he's only now just getting tanks, not Widow Mines. 15 SCVs went down. aLive's had a really bad start to this game and has not been able to recover from it. He's up against a 5-base Zerg player on their way to more and more upgrades on the way to Infestors and Hive. A drop in the main base is admirable. You know, gets a couple of drones and distracts the army, but not really the comeback he would have wanted. Now, aLive looks like he's really thinking about late game. At least I hope he is. This isn't a misclick. I don't think it is. I think he's just going for, like, eventual Liberators. He saw it there was a Hive. He knew Ultras are going to be on the way. And Mass Tank with the transition into Liberators can definitely give you a late game TvZ, even if you're 50-60 supply down. You just need to really turtle. But if that's the case, I would expect him to have a 4th CC. It looks like she's going to lift his main, but that's going to make defending pretty difficult, right? A planetary, you don't have to really worry about one side, so you can rally to the other. And that's both sides protected. 2 orbitals, you have to worry about both sides. And then maybe a Sensor Tower has to come down, and it just gets complicated. It's probably the most frugal thing he could do, though, so I guess that's his plan. Another attack. We're getting set up here, waiting to see if aLive moves out. Now, I say, like, aLive probably isn't really planning on moving out. There's obviously not a big reason to, with his supply being in the dumpster, and he knows that. So he's just letting his Marines go forward while, you know, he can still pick all of those up and boost out. Not bother to bring any, you know, tanks here or even any Marauders, actually. Only getting to that Marauder production now. So this is definitely aLive's best shot. He might be down 40 supply, but he's only down 10 army supply. Upgrades are actually still even maybe a little bit in favor. It's a little bit weird because Zanster did go for both his ground upgrades, so it's really hard to say what's favorable or not favorable. But 6 Infestors, they do have patching lands. These drops are eventually going to be cleaned up. Not that they've really been doing much to bring back aLive in this game, but they've at least kept tabs on Zanster. Like, do you have Ultras? How many bases are you taking? And if you're taking more than 5, that's where I start to maybe get my money's worth by killing and canceling these hatcheries. It looks like he actually transferred. You know, I actually really like that. Most of the time you'd see a transfer over here. Sometimes you'd see a 4th planetary built over here. I actually really like that when Ryung did it. But anyways, not really common to see the expansion path with Terran go this way. Sometimes the Zerg does it. But I like it. I mean, that's where your army is going to be closest to, right? And if that was a planetary, that'd actually be a really good point to defend against the Ultras. But it's not, so... Again, vulnerable. The good news is it's an orbital you can lift in case the Ultras and Lings are the ones running into it. Liberator harassment in the natural and the 3rd base. Nope, that was a drop. That got killed. So only 1 Liberator going for harassment. Got a couple of kills. Not too shabby. And you know, he's been on a double tank production for quite some time, so what is he up to here? 8 tanks! Not too bad. With 3-3. Now, I still don't know about moving out. That's really the trick here is, okay, you can survive until you're late game, you can survive until you're maxed out, but you still don't have the perfect Terran army. I guess the Zerg doesn't have the perfect Zerg army either without Broodlords, but... I mean, they're getting closer to it with Ultras and Infestors than you are, I think, with tanks and only a small amount of Liberators. Because that's what I think that aLive would have waited for, is more Liberators, less Marines. But he's attacking over here. Phone goes down to the medevacs, and a counterattack is set up on his 3rd base again. The supply depot was down. He noticed the attack, but didn't raise the supply depot. Tanks, even though they're in siege mode, aren't enough. Get cleaned up. That 3rd base is going to lose some SCVs, but Zanster takes a loss at his 5th. I guess he'd already replaced it twice over, so I don't think he's too worried about that. He saved all the drones. These drones also obviously in danger. Just pull those to the other base, and Zanster doesn't really have too many tears to shed over the lost hatchery. He didn't lose the drones, and he has so many more, and even if he didn't, he has such a huge bank that he could replace them, eventually. But how is he going to take this fight? Going more into a choke as he goes forward to the 3rd base. Fungals are hitting decently, but obviously not the big Fungals. No Ravagers to back it up either. Ultras are still getting obliterated. They do have chitinous plating, but they're going up against, a lot of tanks and focus fire. There weren't a lot of Lings supporting that. So the tanks are able to do their job, and the bio is able to just tear them down. Now, the counterattack did end up killing the 3rd base. It actually gets a couple Liberators, too, which is fantastic. It's also getting just rallied bio units. aLive, this was his one push, and it looks like it has not worked. Couple Ultras, couple Hydras come in here. They're the Lings that I think would have done even a better job dealing with the mass tanks. And aLive is dead. He was kind of dead from the get-go, but he had that chance with the medevacs, maybe his expansion process, but by pushing out, he made himself susceptible to counters, and he made himself weak against, you know, Zerg in general. You know, you go on a creep, you put yourself out there, you don't have enough of those siege units, then the hive-based Zerg is always going to have a bit better of a time. It's just actually a general rule in StarCraft 2, before anyone, I guess, balance complaints, right? The defender's advantage really works out. Whoever's attacking is going to be at a disadvantage. But GG, Zanster takes game number 1. This is a best of 3, and these guys were tied for points, so they're only just now getting into the round of 8, whoever wins this. Looks like we had a couple of walkovers, which are really, really sad. Both Nurtio and a Laser, the 2 king European Zergs, not showing up today, so Penguin and Keen get walked over, and they're already in the semifinals, already into the money. Oh, it's I'm really sad about that. I don't know if they mentioned it and then I didn't get the message, or they just forgot, or thought they would be worth more of their time to practice for Montreal, but I'm a little sad about that. I guess it guarantees this won't be a Zerg Fest. Well, I guess Bly could still win, and actually it still would be a Zerg Fest. Keen would be the last remaining non-Zerg. We'll see what happens, but aLive chooses Catalina, and it is in this map pool. The Lima League is the reduced one. We cast that yesterday, and then I also cast another tournament that is a reduced map pool, but no, most of our tournaments are actually all goes for the ladder pool, and Catalina is amazing. I do have the original intro too. It's the one intro I'll be playing today. Alright, let's go for the intro. Uh-oh. You didn't see me mess up, and you didn't hear that I messed up the audio either. Hopefully that's where it was. Shh, don't tell anyone. We're in game number 2 in the top right as the Red Zerg winning the series so far. It's Zanster. In the bottom left, or well, middle left, I guess, says the TL Terran. It is aLive. I think I also reduced the sound, maybe? Yeah, I did a little. Yeah. I actually had it bumped up for Korea and America. For America, I just got the In Control voice actor, or voice announcer pack. So I really wanted to hear all the lines. And then for Asia, I was the one streaming yesterday too, so Europe had to be compensated for. Let me know how the audio is now with this game. Also, as more people tune in, hopefully you get more accurate feedback. But alright, Catalina. Why would a Terran choose Catalina? Well, Terrans, I think, kind of choose any map, to be honest. I feel like, and I think this is supported by both their lore and the way that they have played. Definitely the more adaptable race. They're the ones that are really scrappy. They have medevacs to come back. They have mules to come back. Their adaptability, they can be strong in almost all stages of the game. Early game with proxies, mid game with drops, late game with a little bit more weakness, but eventually you can get to, obviously, like ghosts and Vikings and whatnot. Still very strong. So I think it's kind of like the Terran players are probably going to be the ones that choose these otter maps that the Zerg players, for instance, are saying they really don't like. But why choose Catalina specifically? And, well, probably because they did want a proxy, whether it was a T-Rex proxy in Reapers or Marines, which is popular nowadays, or what. Because, you know, if they just put it in the middle of the map, it's not that big of a map, and they can still get a lot of damage done. There's a lot of Reaper hop-up spots in Catalina too. Definitely, I think a reason Zanster had in mind an opening that started with a pool first, but then he adds something on top of that, so won't know if it was originally his plan or just like, hey, that's actually a good idea. I already got the pool going. I think from what I've heard, most people just have the planning and go with it once they're into the game, as opposed to necessarily changing their build. Obviously, Zerg reacts, but there's not much to react to yet. He hasn't gotten much scouting. He does seem to know where his opponent is, though. He hasn't bothered putting his overload any closer, so I guess he just saw where the SCV went back to, maybe? Is that what happened? I guess that's probably what happened. I'm really not sure. Because the Reaper hopped down, didn't he? Well, either way. I think Zanster knows where his opponent is. This Reaper is having a tough time getting into that main base. It looks like it isn't going to try to get to that main base, even though it has multiple opportunities. It's just going to stay outside and wait to see. Is it going to be lings? Is it going to be roaches? Because he has seen the later hatchery. That timing is way off, so you have to be worried about multiple things. Now he sees that it's roaches. What was the build back at home? He was going to go for a 2-1-1. Ooh, I like this idea. He's going to go for a tank. Unfortunately, that does delay his build overall, so this is already technically damage done by Zanster's opener, and Zanster is, of course, going back and droning behind this, so as long as he gets a fair amount of units killed, and I say units specifically because I think it could be either SCVs or army, I think this might be worth it. That delay on stim, because it's a time investment, is really brutal, right? Like, you can't sacrifice +1 weapon to get stim faster. Not really, anyways. Whereas you could maybe do that to get production faster. But the point is, how much damage is it going to do? Bunker on the low ground was perfectly timed. The tank does pop out, and since this wasn't a committal, there wasn't much of a chance that tank was going to get taken out by Ravagers, especially with the bunker covering the ramp and the Overlord not being close enough just by default. So, really nice hold by aLive. I do wonder if that was worth it for Zanster then. Again, delaying stim is huge because you got to start it and you just got to wait for it, you know? There's no chrono boost, there's no, like, double tech lab that exists or something weird like that. No, it just has to be reinvested into at a much later time. But they are still producing. They do still have access to medevacs since they went for a 2-1-1, so we're just a little bit late. And you're going to have to deal with drops and a strong Terran economy. They aren't attacking you, but you didn't kill their economy as much as you were hoping for. Like, where does that put the Zerg player? Who's still on 2 bases, trying to get up to a lair, adding on speed. What is this lair going to be for? 3rd base only finally coming down. aLive could probably drop to that and get the cancel, no problem, but looking for a bit more damage. No stim, but tanks positionally could definitely help them out. Drop the Marines on top, run back to the tanks when everything's getting dicey. Just trying to check to see if anyone had said anything about the audio. There's so many gather bots. Oh, God. I don't see anything about the audio. Okay, well, like I said, you just run back to the tanks. In this case, he picked up and flew back to the tanks. But the problem for aLive is that, well, this is like something. It's obviously not aLive. It's not Abyssal Reef where you're actually attacking their saturation or supply depots or whatever that, you know, that could be. It's a Zerg player with all their tech behind their mineral line, and you're nowhere close to the mineral line. Well, that medevac goes down, and that is already not great news. It's just barely being saved, though. So are the Queens. That one finally goes down. Ling attack thwarted just by a wall off. Queens accidentally run in, trying to once again chase on the aLive's medevac. And, well, I guess that kind of baited the Marines and a Ling, so it worked out in a weird way. 2 Queens died, 5 drones died, Liberators sieged up in the back, but 11 mutas are still on the way. That is actually quite a lot. I think Zanster recognized he wasn't in immediate danger, which was a little bit risky for him, I want to say. I don't know how many Terrans actually react to that build by swapping their factory onto their tech lab, so I don't know how, like, precise Zanster thought stim timing would be, but he called it correctly. There just wasn't enough of an army to actually hurt him, so saving up for 11 mutas is expensive, but he was totally in the right to do so. Now he's got a really nice harassment force. Now his upgrades aren't here, but neither were aLive's. Not really, plus I'm only just finishing up. His Bailing Nest, not here. He's missing a lot of those crucial elements to a TvZ, but he just got the entire army in the middle of the map. He actually took the engagement with only Lings and mutas, but it was enough. The combat shields weren't there. There weren't enough Marines to help out. Now the tanks had to be saved by medevacs. One goes down. Very nice judgment call there from Zanster. And now he's adding on 6 more mutas and finally that Bailing Nest. Obviously, aLive going for a 2-base all-in at this point. It's a small map. He can kind of go from natural to main, and that is a scary position for the Zerg player. But Zanster already got such a lead with that early game opener that you can now concretely say you got a lead from after handling the counter pressure so well. 4th base now on the way, up to 57 drones. Not an amazing economy, but definitely a respectable one that I really actually quite like. Had he gone for 65, sure, that would be, I guess, all the gas is taken, but he's still saturated completely on the minerals. And snipe the Widow Mines, perhaps? I mean, this is a scary Marine army. He took on one with Lings, but now I really need those Banelings. And where are the Lings here? Looks like his macro, his larva, rather, has been in a problem. Usually mutas really make larva management easier, but obviously having trouble getting enough Lings. This could be problems. 8 Banelings exist. And 8 Banelings are on the way. Oh, they're all at the 3rd base. That's what... I guess they were hoping to almost trick aLive. I think there wasn't anything available. So aLive stims in to the natural base, but is now trapped on creep. There's too many Banelings to focus fire. The medevacs taken out, rather. This one won't be able to do too much damage. And aLive, well, he can't give up yet. He still has 2 base economy, kind of. And he still has a lot of army. But that was not the attack he was looking for. Marine cleaned up. Medevac cleaned up. This rally is not really a rally. There we go, 2 medevacs in the main base, a lot scarier. Widow Mine is a little tricky. Oh, he's gonna go for the Baneling Nest. The typical hooks, not quite done. That is a nice pick-off for the future. If he could clean up the creeps at the front, too, that would actually be amazing for another attack follow-up, which I do believe he still has in him. The Baneling focus fire was fantastic, but it did take away attacking the mutas. So with this many mutas still at 13, that's enough to clean up a handful of Marines. The Marines are at 1-1 though, so it's always going to be more and more questionable for the mutas to do that. They're going to need Ling support, and they're going to need to take on the Marines when they're sectioned off. Widow Mines also weren't ever cleaned up, so they're getting multiple shots. This is looking actually very dangerous for Zanster. He held that first attack with the trade of Lings, but the second one a lot more difficult. He's just having trouble getting enough minerals, getting enough larva to get enough Lings. He's starting to lose out on that really nice muta count down to now 10. And still not cleaning up the Widow Mines. A couple of them are getting another shot. He's going to have to split. Oh, to get 1 Widow Mine for 1 muta. That is totally worth at this point in time. Finally... what just went on? Whoa, did he transfer? Oh, no. I wish I'd gotten that shot. Oh, I was so busy looking to see if he's going to take damage to his army, but apparently 1 Widow Mine in the main base was forgotten about, and I think he transferred workers back, and then that Widow Mine just killed all 12 of them. That Widow Mine really good there. Zanster down to 29 drones. Looks like the relentless terror and aggression on such a small map was too good. GG, aLive. Bringing it back off of 2 bases. He ran out of minerals. If you saw the mini-map, he had already transferred over his 3rd base. I mean, that thing can run out of steam, but Zanster ran out of steam first. Just making sure no one has said anything about the audio. Looks like it's good. Alright, now it's going to be Zanster's map choice. Catalina, I think, was a strong choice for aLive. The attack from Zanster didn't do quite as much as it wanted, but I still thought it looked good after aLive's attack was cleaned up on that main base. But the rally of upgraded stim bio was too good. Zanster takes a little bit of time, chooses Ascension to Ire. This map definitely more favorable for Zanster. The other map that we have in here that's not chosen too much is Interloper. Looks a lot like Terraform. Oh, I lost 2 out of 3 of my cats. Okay. There's aLive. I actually have a co-caster. They just have nothing to ever contribute. You can hear the countdown. I started to level a couple of my co-op commanders that I haven't bothered to. Because everyone is so gung-ho about playing Dahaka. There's a lot of people willing to play regular missions. Not that it's ever really hard to find a partner in the first place, but these people are actually staying in the game, which has been my problem on regular missions. And then people just try and get easy experience by leaving the game and hoping their partner plays it out. Nah, Dahaka players actually want to play. So, it's been easier, I suppose. But yeah, Rainer, level 1 commander, pretty hard to use. I kind of forgot. Anyway, now we're on to Ascension to Ire. It is game number 3 in a best of 3, so ace match in the bottom right as the blue Zerg on home turf. It is Zanster. In the top left, as the red Terran from Korea, it's aLive. I just had my co-caster muted this entire time. You thought it was on accident, but it was actually, I was just tired of hearing them talk. No, I guess as more people trickle in, Rifkin is in chat right now, actually, but also waiting to talk to accountant guy about taxes and adult things, so... Actually, payments, not necessarily taxes. I feel like for a long time, watching, not really Twitch overall, I've never been a big general Twitch watcher, but definitely StarCraft, obviously. Never really got to hear a lot of complaints for the first 4 years about taxes or payments or legal stuff. And then I feel like in the last 3 years, there's been a lot more talk, a lot more seminars, a lot, more accountants saying that specifically, catering to this new market. Makes you wonder if things are totally legal in the first couple of years. I can almost guarantee they weren't for the first years of Brood War. Not for foreigners, anyways. Apparently, Korean taxes are, a lot easier. So, I feel like sometimes, I'm gonna say a lot of times, the legality isn't because of, the actual malicious intent, like, I wanna not pay my taxes. It's more like I don't even know if I have to or how I even do it. So, there's that problem. But then there's also the problem of people, I think, just trying to not do it for a long time, and then I've heard 1 or 2 getting slapped on the wrist for sure. I'm always paranoid. That's why I actually do go to an accountant as opposed to doing my stuff online, because to hell with that, especially as you start getting paid by different countries. It gets more complicated. Anyway, I'm not here to listen to adult stuff. But Starport, Hellions, all on the way for aLive. Zanster's gone for a 3rd base. No early game aggression here. What is this Starport going to lead into? It's a tech lab. It's right near it, but it's still pretty hard to tell if it's actually going to be transferred over. I would assume so, just because he has so much gas. Yeah, he's waiting for it. And there's going to be a Viking into Banshee. So I believe Zanster has both games now not gone for Overlord speed. Oh, whoopsie daisy. Well, I was going to talk about how maybe this Viking would pop out in time to stop the Overlord from scouting the tech lab, but I don't think would have been the case. The Overlord would scout it as it was dying. But that Ling got in there, didn't make anything matter. Saw even the tech lab being added on the barracks, so not that aLive's really a mech player anyways, but that's kind of the first step to confirmation. Heli and Zuko across the map, they're not supported with an armory. They are just looking for those kills. They're not able to find it, they go on a creep. Doesn't really work out that way. And there were enough Lings and Queens to stop them doing any damage. The Viking, though, while it didn't stop any scouting from happening... Oh, it's a Raven, not a Banshee. it does kill 2 Overlords, and might even get a 3rd and a 4th one, so that Viking has been pretty worth. You know, like, one thing to stop scouting is they don't have Overlord speed. Another thing is they don't have Overlord speed, so they have these Overlords that are guaranteed to die, basically. You know? If they have the mind to do it, they could pull those back, but a lot of the times they are just kind of forgotten about. But they have the Raven, so certainly you'll see that on Abyssal Reef. You know, a tech lab on a starport specifically for Raven, but I feel like on other maps it just isn't as good. Raven, obviously a very useful tool. Zerg players are not going for fast Spire. Last game was a bit of an oddity. Can usually survive for a very long time. But Abyssal Reef is like the tip-top most abusive one. So Overlord grabs another... This Viking grabs another Overlord kill. You could even find this one. Let Apollo cast. Maybe. The Viking does find this 4th Overlord. That should be it, and then the Viking will eventually die to X, Y, or Z. But 4 Overlords is worth the Viking. The Raven has not done anything quite yet. He might be trying to get all 4 auto turrets down, which would be quite damaging. Oh no, let's only get 2. Yeah, it's always better to pull away from the auto turret, unless you have like a tank firing on it or literally so many units. But yeah, Queens wouldn't attack them fast enough. Drones would have gone down. Even more drones would have gone down. 4 is nice because it's energy. Anything is nice if it's energy based. 1 drone, 1 Ling is even nice. Well, that's okay. This Overlord somehow found its way to the Viking. That's just Zanster maybe on autopilot. I think Zerg's first instinct is to be like, oh, I don't have any vision. Let me just send an Overlord over there, and then they like do it again. Like a goldfish, they just keep forgetting. Like, oh, I don't have any vision. Let me send it over there. And they just like the Viking's not gonna die until the Hydras pop out. Not if aLive's bothering to micro it. So that is kill number 6. Dang. Well, behind that's very, like, this tiny bit of aggression. He got to 2 medevacs with stimmed Marines, a 3rd base, now being saturated. This is so far the best game for aLive. Last game was a little bit wonky with the early aggression, and so was the first game. The first game was a lot more direct, though, in how damaging it was. Second game, a little more in question. Obviously, aLive still took the win. But not paying attention to his army, thought that Zanster wouldn't go off of creep. He was wrong, loses the Marines, but still has the medevac, so it's not the worst thing in the world. Viking's still alive, by the way. These 2 Overlords realize their mistake. A couple of Hellions, I guess we're taking the Zelnaga, so he manages to save 2 units out of everything that was on the field here. But it's saying 3 base saturation, on his way to tanks, combat shields, there's the army right there. Was delayed on 2-2, it looks like. That army was a little bit late. So, Zanster's managed to catch up. He did this in the first game too, he went from melee, then missile. I think we're going to see a lot of flexibility from Zerg players when it comes to which upgrades they're going to get. We see some people go for missile first, melee first, both, none, +2, 1-1, like, it seems like everything is kind of good to go nowadays, where I feel like when it first appeared, the style Ling Bane like Hydra was almost always melee upgrades still. Like to +2 melee upgrades. That drop obviously not going to do too much. Hydra's already in position. Creep Sprite's really not that impressive for Zanster. aLive did okay with the Hellions to stall it out for a couple seconds. Hellions really don't do very much anymore. But then also cleaned it up a little bit with the medevacs. I think this Zanster just more so not really keen on Creep Sprite. So it's not too scary. aLive just get a nice scan too to the top side. Ascension to Ire is kind of a complicated map when it comes to the mid-game for Terrans. I actually really do not like this map myself when I play. Just because... Oh, no, I could die. That sucks. No, Viking, you cannot get another Overlord kill. Denied. 6 is pretty good, though. And the Raven is still alive, so it's gonna get a little more drones. But, yeah, to Ascension to Ire, like, how do you put on the pressure? So even if their creep spread is mediocre, which I put, you know, Zanster's at, like, good, right? Programmers are all gonna be good, but, like, is it great? Eh, that's a question. But it's good. Like, how do you attack Do you attack down, like, diagonal from your base? Third, so what could be their eventual 6th? That's so much creep spread. That might not even be an important base for them. It's not for Zanster. But it does give you the Zalnagas, and it is the most, what looks to be the most direct path, I suppose. Takes out maybe their supply, their reinforcements if you get to the natural, that type of thing. But it puts you in this super open area. The attack to the north, that's a little more of like, a little more chokes, you know, not as open of an area. There's a ramp even. But maybe they just transfer all their drones to the south. Like, it's such a huge map. How you attack is really quite important for the Terran player. But aLive, he was able to just go through the middle of the map entirely because Zanster was going for a counter more so than anything, trying to wrap around the army. Unfortunately, he just runs all of his Hydras, all the Banelings and Infestors into 2 tanks and a lot of Marines. Definitely some panic going on here. He's unable to stop aLive from pushing into the natural. That's a big no-no from the Zerg player on this map. It's supposed to be a complicated process of sieging and unsieging right around here. Instead, aLive is just like, okay, I guess I'm gonna walk right up here. Now, he did put himself onto creep, so he was bound to take some unfavorable trades as the army responded. But that was not a favorable trade for Zanster at all. The army was technically cleaned up, I guess, 2 tanks maybe being saved here, but he lost all of his in the process. 90 army supply to 36, basically. 2-2 upgrades versus 1-1-2. aLive just took this game with that attack. Zanster definitely fumbled the ball right there by having so much army over here and not even attempting to stall out the army over here. He might have been waiting for infestors. He might have been focusing in the wrong place at the wrong time. I was talking about different pathways of attack, and maybe his army thought this was going to be the attack path. Remember, he didn't have the Zalnagas. He didn't have Overlord coverage. He was quite blind. Whatever it was, Zanster made a huge mistake, and now aLive doesn't even care about creep spread. He's just running all over the place. He knows that he's won this game, and Zanster is probably just saying, like, well, dang, that's like 10 minutes of 10 minutes of pretty good macro just down the drain because of one 30-second engagement. But it is definitely over, even with awesome fungos like that one. GG. aLive brings it back from being down 1 in the first game to 2-1 our European Zerg. So Terran Hope still alive. He's going to go on to face sort of in the round of 8. But I am going to jump into the first semifinal that is already ready to go. Hero Marine 2-1 Bly. So Hero Marine versus Keen is the first semifinal. It's a best of 3. We'll get right into it after this break. Thanks for watching.